Hey, what's up? My name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing kind of a fun video talking about books I thought I might hate, or books I thought I really wouldn't enjoy that I read and I ended up loving. I feel like this video is the main example of why I continue to pick up books that I think I might not like, because then this ends up happening sometimes where I read a book that I'm not really expecting to like it because for a number of different reasons. Like maybe it's one of my least favorite tropes to read about, maybe I've been disappointed by that author's previous book, maybe I just assume that it wouldn't be for me, maybe it's a genre that I don't really gravitate towards. There's a number of reasons why I think that I might not enjoy a book, but it's the best thing in the world when you go into a book thinking that you might not like it or that it might not be your thing, and then it ends up becoming your favorite thing, and like a really good book, like one of my top tier faves. Not necessarily saying that all of these books became top tier favorites of mine, but these are books that I just went into thinking I wasn't really gonna enjoy them, and then I ended up liking them a whole lot. But before we do jump into the list of books, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for anyone who loves learning and wants to explore their creativity and learn new skills. Invest in yourself and your personal growth. I think Skillshare is the perfect place whether you're trying to learn a new skill or whether you're trying to strengthen skills that you already have. There's just so much to learn on Skillshare. Skillshare is really built to help you learn because it's ad-free, so you're not going to get distracted by any obnoxious ads while you're trying to learn. And they're also launching new premium classes every week, so there's always something new to be learning. Also, their entire catalog is now available with subtitles in Spanish, French, German, and Portuguese, which is just so cool. I recently started taking this class called Art Journaling for Self-Care, 3 Exercises for Reflection and Growth, which is taught by Amanda Rach Lee, which is so cool because I have been a huge fan of Amanda Rach Lee's channel for quite a long time. She's like a really well-known bullet journal channel on YouTube, and I wanted to take this class because I think it's so cool that Skillshare picks people to teach these classes that actually know so much about what they're talking about. And I think art journaling is such an amazing way to express yourself, and it's something that I desperately want to get into. Like my sister is really good at like all the journaling things, like she's really creative like that, but I like that this class breaks it down and helps for people like me who aren't that artistic when it comes to stuff like that, but I want to be. But of course, if that class does not interest you, they do have so many other classes in creative topics like marketing, creative writing, design, illustration, painting, literally any creative thing that you can think of, it's probably on there. Yeah, go ahead and check it out. The first 1,000 people to use the link in my description or my code gabbyreads will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. A whole month of free learning. How exciting. And thank you so much once again to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get into the books. So I had 2 very recent reads that kind of inspired me to do this video in the first place, so I thought I would go over those first. But the first one is going to be Xoxo. This is a book that I went into not really expecting to enjoy it, just because my relationship with young adult books lately in these last few years has been very like hit or miss, and I cannot even remember the last time that I gave a young adult book 5 stars. Like it's been a long time, but this book was so freaking cute. I don't know what it was about this book. I don't know if it's because it included like a K-pop star, and because like a lot of this book does take place in Korea, which I'm just like really on this like Korea kick right now. I loved this. I thought it was so cute. These characters were just so adorable. I don't know, there was just something about it that I really loved. I really gravitated towards. I thought these characters had such genuine chemistry, but I also loved their own like, you know, things that they had going on in the story. I thought they were both very fleshed out characters individually too, and it was just so cute. Like this is one that I actually hope to reread in the future because it just made my heart so happy while I was reading it. And I guess I just went into this one not really thinking that I would like it because it's a young adult contemporary, and I genuinely don't know the last time I gave a young adult contemporary anything more than like 3 stars. Like it's been so long. But then the second book that I wanted to mention that was like a recent read of mine is the Mindfuck series. This is a you know, romantic thriller series that I'm not gonna lie, I kind of went into this expecting not to like it very much for a few different reasons. The writing style in this, especially in the first 2 books, it's just not my favorite, and I don't think the first 2 books in this series are very good. At least my opinion personally, like I don't think the first 2 books are that good. They're very like bland. These characters just have no chemistry, and there's just like not a lot going on. After those first 2 books in this series, if you didn't know, this is a collection of 5 books, and all the books are only like a little over 100 pages, so they're pretty easy to get through. But after those first 2 books, I really thought this wasn't gonna be my thing, because I was like, oh god, it's written so badly and these characters are just not interesting. But then somewhere around book 3, things really start to pick up, and then by 4 and 5, I was pretty happy with where this was going. Like, I was pretty obsessed. I was like screaming, like my mouth was like hanging open while I was reading some parts, and there was some twist towards the end that I did not see coming, and it just made it all worth it, you know? Like, it was so good, so surprising. And so I ended up really enjoying this one, which I really thought that I wouldn't, you know? Another book that was kind of recent, one that I just didn't think that I would enjoy, is Planet Barbarians. This is another book where, you know, I feel like with these 2 books, they are very hyped right now on the internet, and I feel like with these books, it's probably best to go into them with low expectations because the writing isn't the best, okay? Like, the writing is not great in these books, but sometimes it's just fun to have books that are just like pure escapism, you know? Like, they're just entertaining. You just read them because their pure entertainment value is so high, and it's just fun. Like, it's just a fun time to read these books, you know? I mean, I will say, the Mindfuck series is very dark. Very, very dark, very twisted, so it's not like all a fun time to read, if you know what I mean. Like, I would definitely look up trigger warnings if you have sensitive triggers to certain things, because oof, this book can be a lot at times. But this one for sure, I mean, this one's like, you know, this one's like an erotic romance book about like this girl who has sex with this alien, so I mean, it's just not something I thought I would enjoy, you know? And to be fair, I did end up giving this book 3 stars. Like, it's not a new favorite of mine or anything, but I thought this would be like an instant 1 star for me, like hate it, absolutely hate it. But no, it's actually pretty fun, okay? It's fun, I admit it. I had a good time reading this. One book that I read during a video series that I called Reading Books Outside of My Comfort Zone is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. This is a book that I thought that I wouldn't like it because it's kind of outside of my comfort zone, because I don't usually read young adult fantasy sci-fi books like this, you know? That is very much not my go-to genre. But this one surprised the hell out of me, and this one was a 5-star book for me. I actually read the second book in the series too, and the second book was a 5-star for me, and I am just floored. I'm amazed by how much I enjoyed this series. I think the thing that makes this book so fascinating to me is it kind of reminds me of Blade Runner, like just a tad. Like, the vibes and the universe and the world in this story, it just reminds me of Blade Runner, and so I think that's mainly the reason why I enjoyed this as much as I did. I was like listening to the Blade Runner 2049 soundtrack and like the score as I was reading this, and it just added to the vibes. It was a great time. But yeah, it's really cool because this book takes place in this world where people are immortal. The population has grown so much in size that it's like out of control, so they have these people called Scythes who are responsible for controlling the population. So like a Scythe will just come to you and be like, all right, today's your day, you're done, you're dead. And a Scythe is responsible for killing you, and like there's nothing these people can do about it because like they're immortal. They understand that like people have to die, and it's just fascinating. It's so fascinating. It's just a really cool concept. And even though like these characters, like they don't stand out super hard in my brain anymore, like I didn't love this for the characters, but the concept and this world, fascinating, so cool. Another young adult book that I have on this list, because why not, is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is another one that I kind of expected not to like this, not only because it's young adult, but because it's a young adult thriller, which usually out of all the young adult genres, thrillers for some reason tend to be my least favorite out of the young adult books. I don't know what it is, but it's like I just find it really annoying, I guess, when teenage characters are gonna be like, I'm gonna solve this all on my own and, you know, not go to the police or not go to my parents. Like, I just find it kind of obnoxious, if I'm being honest. But this book was just so well written. It was so interesting. I just loved it so much. Like, I thought it was so good. The audiobook for this, by the way, is freaking 10 out of 10 fantastic. It's so cool because a lot of this book, you know, she's a senior in high school and she's taking on this project of trying to find out what happened in this case in this small town in the past. So a lot of this book is told through like, you know, it's like article clips and like phone calls and different things like that, text messages. And so there's a lot of cool sound effects that are used in the audiobook that sound like she's like on a real phone call, and just different things like that that make it feel so much more real. And I loved it so much. Like, this was such a good time. There was actually good plot twists throughout this book that I was super shocked by. It's definitely the best young adult thriller that I've ever read. Like, this definitely made me change my point of view on reading young adult thrillers, because after I read this, I was like, well, shit. To touch on some other thrillery stories that I didn't think I would like, The Push is actually one that I did not think that I would enjoy this one, because I think calling this a thriller is mismarketing it just a tad, you know, because this isn't a very like typical thrilling kind of story. But I would agree with like the inside flap here, because it says it's a page-turning psychological drama about the making and breaking of a family, and this is very much, you know, like a character study kind of story. But the reason why I thought I wouldn't enjoy this one is because everybody was comparing this to Baby Teeth, and Baby Teeth was a 1-star book for me, and I was thinking like, oh god, oh no, I'm not gonna like The Push because it's like a similar concept, right? Because if you didn't know, Baby Teeth is also a story about a mother who just doesn't connect with her daughter because she's like the actual spawn of Satan, and that's kind of like the main premise of The Push as well. So I was seeing a ton of people saying like, oh my god, if you liked Baby Teeth, then check out The Push, and I was like, no, because I really just freaking hated Baby Teeth. It's one of my least favorite books that I've ever read, so I was concerned after that I wouldn't like this. But hell no, dude. This shit right here is freaking god tier. Like one of my favorite books that I've ever read in my life. Like this writing is so smart and clever and beautifully written, and it's just so good. Like this is everything that I wanted Baby Teeth to be. And then another thriller is An Anonymous Girl. This is one that I did not think I would like, because the first book that I read from this author duo was called The Wife Between Us, and that was a 1-star book for me. And so when I picked up this one, I was like, oh god, like here we go, like let's see what it's gonna be. And I gave this one 5 stars. Like I don't know, I really loved this one. I thought it was so interesting. And this one is about this woman who just gets signed on to be a part of this like research study for this psychologist, but she kind of gets like tangled up in the lives of the psychologist and her husband, and like I don't know, it's just a very interesting, juicy thriller. Like I had a great time. One non-fiction book that I read pretty recently that I went into with very little to no expectations was Wild. This is actually a book that I read earlier this year in January when I did my like reading Capricorn books kind of video, because this book was highly recommended for Capricorns, and I just kind of went into this expecting not to really like it. I don't know why. Like I've seen this book around, you know, for years since it's been out, and I just always assumed it like wouldn't be my thing, not only because nonfiction is something I'm very particular about what I read. I guess I just thought that this book wouldn't be my thing because I've never really read a book that's a nonfiction book that's about someone who's connecting with nature and like finding themselves by like going on a hike, and like a book that's mainly about hiking. It just doesn't sound like something that would be interesting to me, because I've never been the most like outdoorsy person, you know, I'm definitely like a homebody. There was something about this book that was just so inspiring. Like literally after this book I was like, okay, I'm gonna become that bitch. Like I'm gonna go on hikes, like I'm gonna fucking do it. Like this book literally inspired me to get some fucking like hiking boots and shit. Like that's how much I fucking loved it. This book inspires me to want to like actually get out in nature and like be a part of the world, and like I don't know, I didn't think it would have as big of an impact on me as it did. God, I loved this. It was so inspiring. It was so good. It was way better than I ever imagined it could be, and it just genuinely had such a big impact on me. Like this is gonna go down as one of those books that kind of did change my life in a way, you know, and I love that. I love when books can do that. One horror book that I thought that I wouldn't enjoy when I first picked it up is actually Pet Sematary by Stephen King, which is crazy to say because, you know, this is actually my favorite Stephen King book that I've ever read. But when I read this book, I read it in late 2019, and this was my like 3rd or 4th attempt at a Stephen King book. And at this point in time when I read that book, I was thinking, I don't know if Stephen King is the author for me, because I had never really loved anything that he'd written before. His books are good, but they're not great, and like maybe I'm just like not understanding the hype with Stephen King. And then this book, after I read Pet Sematary, oh my gosh, it completely like changed the game for me. Like this is still to this day my favorite Stephen King book, but this is the book that inspired me to want to do like dedicated Stephen King reading vlogs for a whole year. And so for the year of 2020, like after I read this book in late 2019, I decided to try to read one of his books once a month, and this book just really inspired me to get more into horror as well. So I feel like this book just really changed things for me, because I just went into this book thinking, oh, it's probably not gonna be my thing, or like I just don't really get the hype with Stephen King, like what's going on. But then this book, after I read it, I was like, fuck, okay, I get it. I fucking get it. Okay, this book was amazing, and it's still so good. Like this is one of those books that I wish I could read again for the first time, even though I just read it for the first time a few years ago, but like god. And then the last 3 books that I wanted to mention are some romance books that I went into thinking that I wouldn't enjoy them, because People We Made on Vacation by Emily Henry, this was a book that I for sure thought that I was not going to enjoy. Like this is one of the most surprising things that I've enjoyed ever. Not only because, you know, Beach Read was, you know, Emily Henry's first super romantic book, and I expected to love love Beach Read, okay? I thought it was gonna be an easy 5-star book for me, and then I didn't love Beach Read very much. It was like a 3-star, and I was like, shit. I just assumed that I would love it. But then when this book got announced, I really thought that I wouldn't like it, not only because I didn't like Beach Read very much, but because this has one of my least favorite romance tropes, which is like the friends to lovers trope. I hate it. I don't know what it is about friends to lovers, but I just find that shit to be so boring. Like, there's absolutely no spice in a friends to lovers book, but oh my god, this book is just so cute. Alex and Poppy are two of like my favorite characters ever. Like, Alex is such a freaking cinnamon roll. Like, I just want to protect him. I think the reason why this one worked for me so well is because we get to see flashbacks of like how they met in college, you know? And I think the important thing to me about rooting for a romance couple is seeing how they met, you know, seeing the beginning stages of their friendship or relationship. And so that's why usually friends to lovers doesn't work for me, because that usually has already happened and we just get to see them being friends, and I'm like, I want to see the beginning of this shit. So yeah, People We Meet on Vacation, it was fucking incredible. One of my favorite books that I read last year. And then same with the Bromance book club is one that I thought I wouldn't like, because this is another, you know, like second chance romance. It's about this married couple who, you know, they feel like they're, you know, possibly gonna get divorced soon because they're just like not in love anymore. And then it's about how he joins this like bromance book club to, you know, read some romance books and try to like reignite the romance passion in his soul. And I just thought that I wouldn't like this because as I said, you know, second chance romance, it's up there for me with friends to lovers. Like, I just don't like second chance romance books very much. It's one of my least favorite romance tropes, but this book, holy shit, blew me out of the water. Freaking loved it so much. Like, it was so freaking cute. Gavin is one of my favorite male love interests that I've ever read. I just absolutely adore him. And then lastly, I have The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. And this one is because K.A. Tucker has been such a hit or miss author for me. Like, oh my goodness. Before I had read this book, I'm pretty sure I gave a number of her books either 1 or 2 stars. And when I got this book, because I was sent this book by the publisher, so originally I wasn't even planning to read this one. I was signing off K.A. Tucker. I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. I just don't like her romance books. But then I got sent this one in the mail by the publisher, and I was like, okay, like, this is my last chance with this author. Like, if I don't like this one, then I'm not reading her books anymore. And this was a goddamn 5-star flawless romance. I've reread this book. I love it so much. And this book is another one that kind of like impacted my life, or like changed some things for me after I read it, because after reading this book, I just got obsessed with Alaska, and I like really wanted to go to Alaska. I was always like looking up things about Alaska and like trying to find other books that take place in Alaska, because the vibes in this book are just immaculate. And I don't know, I wasn't expecting to love this the way that I did, you know, like I was ready to sign off K.A. Tucker for good, and so I'm just so glad that I ended up loving this book so much. So yeah, these are all, you know, the books mentioned in this video. Let me know if any of these books also kind of surprised you, like if you thought maybe you wouldn't enjoy some of these books either, but you ended up enjoying them, because I would love to know. Also, like, if you have any books, you know, that you've read that you thought maybe you wouldn't enjoy it and then you were really surprised by how much you ended up loving it. Like, I would love to know if you have any books like that, because I think that's what makes reading so fun for me. Like, that's part of the joy of reading, is finding hidden gems and things and just trying new things and then finding out that you love them. Like, I just think that's so rewarding. Like, it's just one of the best parts of reading. Also, do let me know, because I know I mentioned a few books in this video that were like life-changing books for me, or like books that really impacted my life in a certain way. And so let me know if you would like to see me do kind of a future video where I talk about all the books that have really changed my life, or all the books that have really impacted my life or my way of thinking. Yes, I just hit my glasses. But let me know if that's a video that you would like to see me do in the future, just because there are a number of books I can think of that have really made a big impact on me as a human and have really changed my life. That sounds so dramatic when I say that, but really. So yeah, thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye.